Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming. Welcome to the 22nd, 2025 meeting of the Comprehensive Plan Task Force. As we traditionally do, I'd like to go around the room and introduce task force members that are here. I think I'm a little bit late, but right now we're going to start with this man with the distinguished
Phil Taylor.
Allegra.
Matt Gilly.
Brian Hurst.
Marianne Naif.
Thank you very much, everybody. I'd like to begin administratively, just send out the minutes for the meeting. Look at those questions, issues. Not, I'd like to call for a vote.
Move to approve.
All in favor? Okay. At the last meeting, we talked about a number of changes folks thought would be helpful in the housing and land use sections to bring this plan more in line with more of a majority of the town. I want to make sure that everybody comment on those. Do that before going. Main changes are as follows. We're going to eliminate goals. Number 4. Section here, under the housing section. Goal 4 states limit the use of attainable housing, the conversion of existing year-round housing, seasonal or short-term rental units. Short-term rental units, whenever we talk about short-term, alarm bells start. This was an attempt to try to solve the attainable housing problem by making a suggestion about a lot of people objected to using short-term rentals because folks use short-term rentals. Folks in the fishing community, other folks. We're trying to solve one problem, and we're going to create another problem. So the thought was, and this came actually from the Housing Committee, eliminate goal 4. I'd like to just open it up. Does everybody still agree with that? All right, the land use section. Similar discussion. Goal 7 was highlighted and recommended by the Housing Committee to be eliminated. Goal 7 says expand the opportunities. Again, I want to make sure everybody agrees with that. Problems that we're trying to solve. Eliminating that goal, we're reducing impact.
Hi. I'll go back to, I had sent Al some notes. When we finished the meeting the last time, I went back to the beginning of the report and started to read through it for coherence. And what I had mentioned to Al about eliminating the goal particularly, and the whole thing, is we start off by talking about housing affordability and setting the stage right on the first page. We bring it out in the vision element. We then keep talking about it throughout the executive summary, and then when we move on to goals and strategies, it's no longer a goal. So I was wondering, what if we kept policy 7 and reworded it something like revised land use regulations to expand the opportunities to reuse existing housing stock. And the second one, revised land use regulations to expand the opportunities to develop new attainable housing. We're leaving it pretty well open, I think. I wish George was here to get his input on this. But if we move it completely, it's like was brought up in the beginning and we've just dropped the ball. So that was one of the things I had sent through to Al to see if we could talk about tonight.
It was. And,
Maybe I missed that, yeah.
but just to kind of go back to what, in addition to eliminating these goals,
Right.
along with that, they recommended word changes,
Mm-hmm.
talking about consider revise,
Exactly, yeah.
some discussion about
Didn't we say
explore allowing or
something like that? It was,
But I think if we kept goal 7, some kind of comment, instead of revise, say consider revising.
right, right.
Yeah.
I don't think we can do this without.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I think,
in light of that, do you think that
I'm sorry. That would cover what I'm talking about, basically. I guess if that's what everybody'd like to do. David, could you tell me where that was again?
it's on page 1-58, it's goal 1.
I think that was one of the reasons we decided to get rid of it
Yeah.
too, was it was kind of repetitive.
Yeah, okay, okay. Sure.
I just want to make sure by taking these goals out, that we're not getting to the point where we're compromising vision statement.
Exactly, yeah, exactly.
Whatever. So people feel that goal 7 may be redundant. First goal there.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's in housing, that's not in land use.
Yeah, but it does appear in document. Question is, have to appear in that land use section.
My only comment on that would be is when you have a future land use and a comprehensive plan implementation committee, they're going to take direction on how to think about ordinances. There's nothing in there. And here again, I'm just throwing ideas out as they're hitting me. As I think about how we go forward, I realize that how it was such an important issue with the townspeople that I don't want to hear them say later, well, we talk about all these things and then nothing was done about it.
Al, why did the Housing Committee recommending eliminating Goal 7 because of the goal under land use, because of Goal 1 under housing?
Let me turn to, there's some reps here from the housing.
Brian, yeah.
Come up here. and
Come on up
speak
here.
into the microphone.
So you get a microphone.
Hi, Sean Ruel, the Housing Committee. Yeah, that's basically it. We felt that this was adequately addressed under the housing section, and we don't gain anything by including it specifically in the land use. It's already implied in the housing section.
Feel comfortable with that? So I don't think, so I guess the consensus is we're not going to lose importance of affordable and attainable housing. All right. And those recommendations also trigger changes in the implementation plan. Highlight those. The implementation plan is key to goals that appear in sections preceding. So we eliminate goal 4 under housing, 1-97. All of these sections, all of the goals and strategies highlighted as goal 4 would go away. And then similarly, 7, if you go to page 1-1, all the goals that are highlighted as goals. Recommendation also go away. Those sections of the implementation, if we eliminate those. Okay. So here, we feel comfortable with doing that. Okay. Mary Ann, do you have any, you have a couple of other recommendations?
I did, and it has to do a little bit about the touchiness of short-term rentals. And I have to say, I've been thinking a lot about what is going on nationally and everything else that's going on nationally, and how Maine is one of the few states of a lot of small businesses. And I think perhaps in the second, we're taking out the term short-term rentals. However, I went to the second paragraph on 156. Sorry, I meant to make copies for everybody, and I didn't.
It's the last sentence. It says an increase in the number of homes used seasonally, conversion of units into short-term rentals further restricts the availability.
And I guess my thought on that was the supporting graph only takes into consideration the last advertising methods of BBRO and Airbnbs during the COVID years. But there isn't any comparison to previous years before 2020. I went on to say, basically, historically, Harpswell has used short-term rentals to supplement their incomes, and advertising was through the local agencies. To use that as a reason for the housing issue, I don't think it's a good comparison, because we don't know how much more we have now than we had 20 or 30 years ago. And so I just thought we should just drop it, basically.
So your suggestion is to
Yeah, an increase in the number of short terms used seasonally restricts the affordability of year-round housing.
What page are we
on page 1-56,
56, and it's the end of, under issues and implications.
the second paragraph.
Yeah, and it says an increase in the number of homes used seasonally restricts the availability of affordable year-round housing. I would take out the conversion of units, only because I don't know that that's a reason.
So you just want to eliminate part of that sentence?
Yeah. Or take the whole thing out. I mean, I just thought that the reason they used in bringing short-term rentals up as the reason And it singles out one group.
I don't think it's a bad idea.
Either eliminate the whole sentence or eliminate just part of it.
Either one.
Either one.
I think makes perfect sense, logical sense to me.
Yeah.
We don't have any data to back
have no
up
data
that.
to back up what
right.
we're making that
If we had
statement.
data to back it up, then yeah, but that's more of an opinion than I think of the plan, than like a fact.
Yeah, and I sort of thought it's such a hot button issue anyhow. Why bring it up again?
So,
And the other one was land use 160. Again, all these little areas where we're throwing short-term rental as a reason. Land use objectives. 160. Let's go back to 160, paragraph 3. Oh, that's what we just talked about. I'm sorry. 161, land use objectives. Paragraph 1. In there, we say, there is not necessarily a clear direction of some of the major issues facing Harpswell. Maintaining the working waterfront. And then it says, dealing with the growth of short-term rentals and managing the use of groundwater is affecting affordability. I don't know why that needs to be there, dealing with the growth of short-term.
dealing with the growth of short, okay, so you're focusing on short-term.
Yeah,
rentals.
I think
Instead of maintaining the working waterfront.
and,
dealing with the growth of short-term
and just
rentals.
managing the use of groundwater and addressing house affordability.
Delete dealing with the growth.
I would delete that, that suggestion.
I think we could. I'm torn on that one. I think we could leave it because I still think we can deal with it. That's not necessarily negative.
Okay?
And I still think that. I don't think.
Issue with the
Right, and I think
But
the
not
community
major.
should at least be aware of
Okay.
the issue, and I think that kind of spells that out. You,
And then in the next column, here again, we're talking about our objectives. Rather than allow the creation of small businesses throughout the interior, I think I might use the word encourage. Here again, to
yeah,
make small businesses in this community, other than the fishing community, feel that we're behind them.
I think that helps the attainable housing as a whole too, because you got to have some place for people to work.
It's the bullet that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It says allow the creation of small businesses. And I would just change the word to be encourage. Just as we're,
I guess I have a question. Why should the town encourage rather than just let it happen as it? And how would the town encourage?
well, you could, I think the last time after the last one, they basically got a small business association in town. It's not anything that the town is paying for, but it's a general feeling of the town. I think we've heard from many, many small businesses in town, they don't feel like we support them. And I know I've
Did they
heard.
say how? How do they
We
feel?
don't have the feeling that we're supported by the people in town.
What way?
Whether we're complaining about not wanting a big box store, not that they're a big box store, but the general tendency to want to keep commercial businesses very low key.
I'm sorry, Dave.
Our vision statement.
I think the town probably can.
We can do it through land use regulations
Oh,
too, and
yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's why it's in the
Right.
land use objectives, you
I
know?
think, it sounds like sometimes we're so concerned about big box stores, we forget about
Right.
how important the local businesses are in little boxes. But that was my point on that. And as David brought out, it's right in one of our vision.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to go.
Just one more little thing. And it talks about the fertilizer use in the natural resources section.
Let's hold that for a second.
Okay, we can hold that, yeah.
I want to go back to the housing section. George supposed to be here. He recommended, George and Amy at the last meeting,
Paragraph, right.
paragraph and tried to put something that explains to the populace part of this. Didn't get specifically, did recommend changing the last paragraph under issues and implications. I think I forwarded that to the comment.
Yes, you did, you did.
I think essentially he wanted to reiterate the fact that there is a need for affordable, attainable housing. That's something that is currently being addressed. And so I don't think that's problematic. What we're trying to do here. Solutions, if you will, ultimately come. I'm not going to read through his comments. He proposes deleting the last paragraph, 56, placing it with
Right.
Does anybody have?
No.
Okay, the other thing he recommended was he wanted to eliminate the sentence that says efforts to create attainable housing must be owned. Yes, okay. Yes, ma'am. Come up here, come right up to the microphone.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll soon find out. Is it on?
It's on.
Okay, so we talked about this. Courtney Snelling's, I'm so sorry. Courtney Snelling's Housing Committee. We did talk about this in our Housing Committee meeting, and we saw very little connection between the original paragraph and the substitute paragraph. What we don't see in the current one is a feeling of real commitment on the part of the town. In fact, Cheryl Golick, who could not be here, suggested, let me see, the town realizes the need for affordable housing in our town, and we will work diligently to explore options to create housing that will attract and retain people in our town, such as, but not limited to, young families, fishermen and waterfront workers, firemen, caregivers, teachers, tradespeople, and more. I would certainly put older adults there as well, since they have no place to go if they want to downsize. There's like, they can't stay in Harpswell. But we didn't really see that there was a commitment in this particular, paragraph. It kind of sounds like we need affordable housing everywhere. The whole country's dealing with it. Maine's dealing with it. But it kind of pushes the problem away a little bit. It doesn't sound like it's a personal thing for Harpswell. And it is. It should be a personal thing for Harpswell. No different than other communities along the Maine coast. We're the oldest, so we do have folks that want to stay in town and have no place to go. The town also realizes that it will be difficult. Well, yeah, we know that. But it kind of sounds to us like, oh, it's going to be such a hard thing. Do we even bother trying to do something about it? Whereas if there's something that sounds more like a commitment on the part of the town says, yes, we commit to the development of options. Doesn't say what has to be done, but it shows via the comprehensive plan that it's important. Yeah, that it's important. So, yeah, and we should maybe say attainable, because that's what we,
Call it.
yeah, that's what we had used. And also, I'm feeling a little bit like cancel culture. Affordable Housing Working Group's been removed. And, the links removed, the references removed. No. We were set in place because the select board thought it was an important area of investigation, and we did all that investigation. We have a report on it that needs more transparent to refer people to the place and maybe give them a link. Nobody wants lack of transparency. But if you take it away, there's no transparency. So, that's what I have to say.
Well, I would agree with that, and I recall in reading prior comprehensive plans that at one time the town kind of voted down this issue. Might have been 30, 35 years ago. So I think that maybe not use the word owned, but supported by the community. Certainly if there's going to be a sizable amount of people who are opposed to it, then, this whole issue, might be in trouble.
I think there are a couple things that are working. One is the last paragraph, sentence that George recommended.
I think the reason he wanted it deleted was because in some people's minds, when they read that, they feel as though the town's going to be a landlord, for lack of better terms, own the buildings, rent the buildings out, and people aren't okay with that. So maybe if we came up with a different word besides own, like supported, I think is a good one, for example, that I think, I may be wrong because I'm trying to guess at what George was getting at here, but
That makes
I'm
sense.
pretty sure that was, if I remember correctly, that was his biggest reason for objection to that sentence.
Right.
Do you remember that too, don't you, Sean?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
my impression as well.
Yeah.
And I don't think that we have any particular concerns about that sentence
Bad choice of word.
being removed. I think that the other stuff is adequately addressed. But so that's like the next item, but we are concerned about
Deleting the
deleting that paragraph.
hyperlink, if you will.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, exactly so.
Just going back to the paragraph that was sent to us that George and Amy wrote, I felt that was, as Courtney brought up, with bringing up everything all over the country. It was sort of saying it's somebody else's problem, not ours. I mean, that's what
On
I.
the other hand, you could interpret it as saying our problem.
We could, but the way it's written, it's almost like, all over they have it, and it sort of says, and I think it was said here, why don't they just go to Brunswick? I mean, it's that's the impression I got when I read it.
We did I was at the housing committee meeting, and the committee members that are here haven't quite brought up what I think was discussed, which is in order to judge the substitution of the paragraph, we need to understand what the motivation was. Why did they want to? What do they think they gained or lost from the old paragraph, gained from the new paragraph? But what was the motivation in order for us to figure out, does it adequately represent what you were trying to represent in the first place?
I don't want to put words in it. As I recall, the discussion the task force had, some people in the task force reluctant to include Affordable Housing Working Group report, official report, because it was not voted on, even though it was supported by all of the processes that do. The town did not vote. So all of these other reports that we highlighted were reports that were voted on. The only one that was not. That's my recollection of conversation took place.
I think that's a pretty accurate recollection. And I think that was one of the biggest issues that people had with the plan was some of the zoning changes that were recommended in that report weren't favorable for some of the townspeople, and that's why the objection was there. So I think that's why we kind of chose to remove that report, to remove some of those recommendations that were in it that were problemsome for some of the town folk. And that's not to say that the whole report was problemsome, but there were aspects of it that certainly seemed to be.
Goal was to remove that reference. Well, you definitely achieved that goal.
Yeah.
I didn't ask here.
Right, and I'm trying to speak.
Yeah.
I want them.
So maybe what we got to do, put this whole
On hold.
that's involved here,
Right.
there's a chance to, not like we have to approve everything tonight. Sort this out, but I think some of the major changes that we talked about, set with that, what I would like to do, I'll get together with, start making changes to the report that we have.
Online.
We could at least
Mm-hmm.
eliminate other things that we talked about. Hold off on this one.
Right.
Until appropriate words. The town website say-
Bill? When you make those changes, maybe if we could do it in a way so like the wording was still up there, but there was a line through it.
Yeah.
So the public could then go and say, all right, this was what was there, And this was maybe just a note of reference, on the front page, there's been changes made to
To what page?
chapter 1, page
Exactly.
56. Then they can go and they could see the red writing with the line through it.
I'll get with Margaret.
Why was the housing or not voted on by the town while these other ones?
I think it was a matter of timing. Came out and it was.
Before my time.
Not come up.
It was before my time. I don't know.
I think most people felt that the select board tasked write the report, appropriate steps, report, and they accepted it. Thought that the
On charge with board.
Right.
right.
And we have
This
one,
report ought to
we have a number,
suggest that the committee is going to work on this.
and we have a number of reports that are in town that aren't voted by the town. Thinking of Sustainability Committee, the reports we had that the selectmen approved.
So
Anyhow,
I would not be in favor of eliminating something just because it was not voted. Housing committee did all that it needed to do. Public meeting, approved by the select. Important part of Harpswell going forward.
I think the ironic thing is that this report covers while I don't have a personal problem facing a lot of people think because
process.
vote. From the open space plan, I thought that was a no-brainer, but you told me that was hotly contested.
When it came up, and we had to keep going back and finding out where the problems were and come up with something that we could get the town to vote on, is basically, you get to, just like we are sitting here now. You're trying to come up with a plan that you can get everybody to follow. Just
Okay,
quick question, what paragraph are we leaving out? The
Okay,
one
this
that
is
George
this is
sent us?
the last paragraph on page 1-56.
Okay,
Paragraph that
we were going to substitute, yeah, okay.
want to substitute. You also want to take the sentence away.
Oh, yeah, no, that's,
I think we can just fix that with the word supported instead
yeah,
of owned.
I think
I think
that's
that's a pretty,
that's
So that we can do that. My recommendation is
agreed.
let's wait until all the players are back here. We can make a final.
Sounds good.
All right. I just want to mention that the other changes here, housing section, housing committee forwarded, we like. Instead of revise, consider revising. Not as hard hitting. There, and at least we don't lose it. So all this is basically under policy 1. There are a number of strategies being revised. Instead of revise, consider revise. That puts another layer of in the process, which I don't have. As much as we want to be as possible. All right.
Anything else? Under goal 3, under land use, strategy 3.1.4, this is just small. It says to manage the use of fertilizers and pesticides. Basically, I would like that to say continue to manage, because we do have an ordinance in place to manage both. I'm not sure if everybody knows we
This is on
do.
page 1-60.
Yeah,
Copy that I have.
I'm not sure if everybody knows that we have one, but
Continue to manage.
yeah. Thank you.
All right. I'm gonna hold off on one. I wanted to bring up real quickly issue of we started this thing. Some of the data that we have probably more than one of the things that previous other previous town was age of data, and his comment to me was that he thought that it was reasonable, data was reasonable. I would ask everybody here, I don't want to reinvent the wheel, but if there's any way that we can update data easily, straightforward way that we can incorporate here, like everybody, just makes things, in my mind, I was looking at this 5 years ago, just looking out 10 years. So I would
It's
ask
been
people,
20 years.
I would ask people to think about it. And if there's something that we can easily update, ask people.
If we're using U.S. Census data, we're not going to get anything newer, as long as we use
No.
the 2020. But the other things, if we could figure out a way how to quickly,
But for example,
Double
in the fishing,
We're usually a year or 2 years behind,
yeah,
too.
but
Yeah, but we'd have a couple extra years.
you might have some data without a trend line. Add something. Those types.
Maybe we should look at what data we think has significantly changed in that time frame, that we may want to address, because if, like you're saying, if we have a trend and that trend hasn't changed much, do we really need to update it? Like, maybe kind of focus on the areas that are more pressing, more pertinent to the plan, like to be backed up by the data, to update that data, I can't think of an example, but I'm sure somebody
Yeah,
could.
I'm not saying it's going to be a huge issue, but improve what we have here. Personally, I don't think it's going to. It adds credibility.
Comment that somebody made about chart. And it did not separate fishermen
Right.
or
I think we talked about removing that graph completely. I think we debated back and forth and we ended up leaving it because we're not counting because we're self-employed.
And,
Yeah.
need
Did
some
we put some or I
Yeah,
thought
we-
we did.
I thought we
some-
did, because basically
Yeah.
the issue with small
Look.
businesses, when you do these reports, the US Census data runs it differently,
Yeah.
and it's based on big business rather than small business.
Other way to get.
There is.
Yeah.
It would take a study, because I looked into it a few years ago.
So there is a way.
There is a way, it can be done, but it would take a study
Right. And
to
cost
pull
money.
out all these separate industries that
We're
fall
talking
in.
about
Yeah.
a short horizon.
Right,
Yeah.
But also not be comparable to all the other plans.
that's true.
Okay,
No.
again, I don't want to get too hung up. Yes, sir.
Oh, just so everybody understands, a lot of the employment and industry data is small business. And when you only have one or two small businesses in the category, and it says one of them has 5 employees, one of them has 10 to 15 employees. Pretty common knowledge to say, no, they had that many. You can identify who the data is talking. Because of that, much of the information, small business, employment, sales, not public. Are people who, that's not us.
Person has a note. Self-employed people, therefore undercount high level of self.
I thought we had said that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's a graph that you pointed out problematic about that. Because what that graphic shows sort of underrepresents.
Yeah.
Agriculture, fishing, and forestry is 6%
Yeah.
employed people.
Yeah.
We all know that. That doesn't make sense. All right, just want to bring it up. All right. If anybody thinks that major effort or major, let's do it. Okay, I want to talk about thinking that where we are right now, we're not going to meet twice a month, for sure. Next meeting, if we go, maybe that's the time that we ought to. Then we talked about, should we have following several meetings closer to the community? Have a meeting. Doing, I mean, it's not going to be able to record them in the way. Maybe we can get more comfortable with.
I don't think it hurts to go out in the public. That's when we had the best turnouts for those few meetings we had out in the public. I guess my question would be, what would be the downfall to it? Where's the negative to having a meeting? And I mean, they can just be our monthly regular meetings,
Right.
you know? But I guess I don't see any harm in it.
I'm sort of agnostic, I don't care. But a couple things is, we aren't going to be able to record them. I mean, we can do it, but it's not easily done,
Yeah.
and it wouldn't be live. Nor is this one. I'm wondering, though, if it doesn't appear to be more of a public hearing then, so that there's going to be a lot of questions that we won't get to.
I think we should almost have a light agenda so we can address some of those questions.
Okay.
You know, I mean, I think, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, if we do it right, we should pretty much have the plan completed, hopefully, for these last 3 meetings, and we use those
That's true.
as kind of our, you know, we got to tweak this, tweak that, you know.
Sandy check.
Yeah.
Get confirmation.
You know, and that we can present then when we go say, all right, this, we've changed X, Y, Z, you know, is there,
Good idea.
is that good? Is that bad? Is there anything else? Anything less? You know, I just don't see how there's any
No, you're right.
negative aspects that come out. I agree, maybe the fact that we can't record it, you know, but I guess we could go on and look on the YouTube account just out of curiosity to see how many people actually do watch the recordings versus how many people we get to show up at these meetings.
Well, that's true, too. You know, I'm not sure how many watched this
I-
meeting
yeah,
each month afterwards, other than those of us who are looking for something in particular that was said. But no,
Okay, so let's explore, after the May meeting. Those, in my mind, outreach, confirmation
Yes.
that
Yeah.
this is gonna
Should present.
and it'll allow summer people to come.
Yep.
Of the 3.
I was 4 of those. I started to do the minutes. I was doing the minutes, and then you sent them
Will you
off.
come to all the meetings?
Okay, that's good, thank you very much. A couple of comments, other comments I have. Again, reiterate, next meeting will be. Been asked, phone interview journalist.
He worked at the Anchor. He was the gentleman that did the article about me in the Anchor. He was an intern for Boston University.
Matt Gilley has already talked to him. He's asked to talk to him on Thursday.
He's talked to a bunch of different people throughout town.
I'm also going to work on an Anchor article.
Maybe mention in that article too that we'll have those 3 meetings out in the public just to kind of make, the more notice they have, the better.
And all the comments I have. Have any comments?
Just, could you guys from the Housing Committee email maybe to either to you or to our group as a whole your recommended change for that you read off for the paragraph?
That was really,
Oh, you guys didn't.
we haven't actually, I mean, good. That would be a
If
great
you
idea.
wanted to, yeah, you know, and then maybe we can just kind of mash everything together and come up with something that everybody's amenable to.
No, I just wanted people.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you brought up valid points, you know, that I think people that weren't here should know too.
How to decrease
What, the cancel?
Yes, ma'am.
If you're gonna do an add and anchor, correct the date out following meeting.
Well,
We can-
it has to be in by mid-May.
Next meeting's not after that
Okay, well, we've had this meeting, we've had a meeting before, kind of cover the territory. This is the major.
I see what you're
It's not gonna
deadline.
maybe
Schedule. Talking
cover.
about the schedule. Want to put the future meeting. Yeah.
The 3 meetings.
Well, because if you work backwards, don't we have to have it done by?
September 10th
So
at
it'd
the
be like
latest,
One in June.
I think. When's November?
So I'm thinking one meeting per month.
Yeah, what day in November
Late
is the
month,
referendum?
you know,
The
late
10th?
month.
I think, yeah, I'm confused.
We used to meet on the second and fourth Tuesday.
Put those dates in.
It's
Do you
the
want
4th.
me to look for availability
Yeah.
for those three?
Right, that's why
The
September.
three
We have to have it done by the
Yeah.
beginning of
See if we
September.
can-
Talking about the Penny's Harbor
Fall?
town.
Old
Portsmouth
school
Bailey
house.
Island, either at the library hall or Kellogg Church.
We all agree on the,
Or Tuesday.
I'll just find availability.
All right.
The only thing, just because they weren't here, do we want to have 2 meetings in May only so we can get this paragraph cleaned up in the first one and then kind of finalize everything in the last one, so then we're prepared for June, July, and August? Or do we want to just try to do it all in one meeting? I'm amendable or
I think-
open
I think
to
we
either.
We do it in one meeting.
Okay.
I want to reiterate that I'm like super happy to be in an informal meeting to this kind of back and forth stuff prior to
I'll
that
make
meeting.
sure that you're infoed on.
This has worked well, I think, too, with having you guys here to bounce
You guys-
stuff off
you
of.
guys-
Where were you for the last?
They're making their report.
That's fair.
Okay, anything else? Any other comments, questions?
That's early. Maybe our quickest meeting.
I think we covered at least what I want to cover. Else? Meeting adjourned.
I'll take care of the minutes for this month. And forward them to the group if you want.
Sure, I love it.
Yeah.